Mobile juggernauts. After the fall of the Roman Empire, roads fell into despair and wheeled traffic disappeared in the confusion of the Dark Ages. But something of the old tradition was kept up, especially in Italy, whose medieval city-states constructed strange vehicles of military and religious significance. Huge carts resembling mobile altars were dragged around the countryside by 12 pairs of young bulls. Christ and the cross figured large beneath an immense banner and a smaller flag for sending signals. Priests, armed warriors, and trumpeters rode the cart, which served as a rallying center in medieval battles. Just as the eagles had done on the standards of the Roman legionaries, a distant relative of the Carroccio, as the juggernaut was called, may be seen in the festival car, decked with flowers which carry beauty queens in springtime on the Riviera. With the advance of the Middle Ages, wheeled traffic began to appear again in the streets of Europe's largest cities. The town of Kodzé in Hungary claims the honor of having invented the coach in 1457, giving its name to the French cocher which later entered into the English language. By the end of the 15th century, rich patrician families like the Sforzas of Milan had as many as 10 or 12 coaches. These coaches ran on four wheels with the body resting square on two axles. Clumsy, uncomfortable contraptions whose passengers were lucky to escape unbruised after driving over the cobbled streets and rutted roads of the period. Cinderella coaches. Real coaches appeared in England in the region of Queen Elizabeth I, who was perhaps the first sovereign to drive down Whitehall in a wheeled state vehicle. The coaches were slung on stout leather straps and supports which softened the bumps and jolts, though much less effectively than metal springs do. As the 16th century progressed, the great families of Europe rivaled each other in the luxury and elegance of their turnout. Their carriages were adorned so lavishly that any one of them would have served to carry. A handsome closed four-wheel coupe also became popular, and it was fashionable for owners to take the reins themselves. Women too tried their hand at driving in those countries which allowed them such privileges. But not always. We are told with great success, roads which until about 1700 had been mere tracks were improving. Ordinary people were traveling more frequently, and since they could not take elaborate protective measures, they offered a tempting price for highwaymen. Stagecoach and horse bus. In the early days, wheeled transport was reserved almost exclusively for the rich. But as time went on, it developed gradually into a public service. This change took place first in the large cities and towns. In Paris, carriages were made available to the public as long ago as 1600. They had 6 seats and operated from the old Hotel de Saint-Fiacre, from which we get the word fiacre, meaning a hackney carriage. In 1662, horse-drawn buses were introduced in the same city, but for various reasons failed to pay and were soon dropped. Horse buses did not reappear until after the Napoleonic Wars. The truth was that most towns were so small that people could reach everywhere by walking. For longer journeys, the stagecoach had now come into its own. Regular services plied between all big towns, whether in Britain or on the continent. The diligence in France and the stagecoach in England were divided into compartments with the seats and racks on the top, which was often called imperial for passengers and their luggage. The coachman was man of some importance, and the place beside him was usually given to the most distinguished passenger. The postilion, who was in charge of the horses and luggage, also considered himself as an official to be reckoned with. In order to run to schedule, it was necessary to change horses at intervals on the journey. These were stabled and held in readiness at each stage or section of a journey. Fresh, well-fed animals would be waiting at the pull-in to be harnessed to the coach. In many parts of the continent, armed guards would be picked up at these stops to escort the coach through brigand-infested country. One such coach, which suffered attack on its journey to and fro over the St. Gothard Pass, may be seen in Zurich Museum. The Gondola of London. The time was coming when the train was to drive the stagecoach from the road, leaving it to ply only in remote country places. But the private carriage had a longer lease of life. It was not replaced entirely by the motor car until some 80 years after the invention of the railway locomotive. During this period, horse-drawn vehicles became lighter and more elegant. The hooded berlin, with its closed windows and ample accommodation, was a truly royal carriage. First built for the German Elector of Brandenburg, it became a favorite at the court of the Habsburgs. The Victoria, named after the Queen who made frequent use of it, was introduced in or near 1870. With its collapsible half hood and low open side, it was the ideal vehicle to see from and to be seen in. Another much larger coach was the Landau, which originated in Germany. It was built for 6 persons, who sat facing each other beneath 2 folding tops, which could be pulled out to meet in the center. The old hansom cab was once a familiar creature of the London street. Unlike the vehicles described above, it had only 2 wheels, with the driver sitting high above them in a dicky seat. The reins passed over the roof of the cab. Whose 2 occupants sat comfortably inside what Disraeli called the gondola of London. Hansom cab has now gone, and the streets where it used to play are thronged with fast-moving traffic. Millions of motor cars are now running on the wheels that have developed from the log wheels invented by primitive man. So I learned many new words. Dicky seat is one of these. I think this is the word we use today for the dicky or diggy.